Books on Tape presents The Blackbird Papers by Ian Smith, read by Brent Jennings. Chapter 1. Professor Wilson Augustus Bledsoe's car glided along the dark, narrow roads of Hanover, New Hampshire, then crossed Ledyard Bridge into the vast wilderness of Vermont. The rain had started slowly at first, but now heavy drops danced staccato across the windshield of his old Mercedes. He felt relieved to be heading home, away from the noisy party still in full swing back at the president's mansion. The celebration was in his honor, yet he had been the first to leave. It wasn't that he was ungrateful. Bledsoe simply felt uncomfortable in large crowds, especially ones convened in his behalf, as they were these days with increasing frequency. What most of the guests didn't know was that but for his wife's insistence, he wouldn't even have gone. He had much more pressing matters to see to in his lab. Bledsoe was no ordinary professor. He had just been awarded the 23rd Devonshire, the most lucrative prize in science and second only to the Nobel in prestige. Winning it was no small feat, even for a full professor at Dartmouth College, which boasted more academic luminaries than universities 4 times its size. That's why Wallace Mortimer III, the college's revered president, and his wife Serena had spared no expense in celebrating their most acclaimed, and certainly their most acclaimed African-American, faculty member. It was clear to all who had gathered this evening that they were celebrating not just a Devonshire, but a career that had been filled with a remarkably long list of achievements. Having won a Nobel 5 years earlier, Bledsoe had trumped his own legend, now becoming the first American to claim the world's 2 largest science awards. As his colleagues congratulated him on the Devonshire tonight, they teased him about the lavish treatment he'd received when he and Kay took their complimentary trip to England and were feted at an elaborate ceremony hosted by the Queen. Everyone wanted to know what he was going to do with the $2 million prize money. Whatever Kay decides was the most he was willing to share. Bledsoe picked up his cell phone and called home. "I'm on my way, Curly," he said. He only called Kay that in private. It was a nickname he'd given her back when they were students together at the University of Chicago. On their first date, flustered and eager, he had mixed up the time and shown up an hour early. Kay, who had just gotten out of the shower, had opened the door expecting to find one of her girlfriends, and instead had found an equally surprised Wilson. She was horrified. Her customarily straightened hair was a mass of unruly curls. He laughed and she almost cried, but an intimacy and candor had been established between them that had only grown through their marriage. "How was it?" Kay asked. "Wally and Serena were excessive as always. I'm embarrassed to think how much they spent." "Who was there?" "Faces I haven't seen in years. Lawrence Wilcox even came up from Harvard." "Lawrence? He hates you." Wally and Serena pulled out all the stops. The Mortimers had evidently been determined to make this a badge to remember, assembling many of the foremost scientists in the academic community, humbling Bledsoe when he stood on the balcony of the mansion during the toast and looked at the crowd gathered below. The first person he had recognized was Yuri Mandrika, perhaps the greatest anatomist the Soviet Union had ever produced, stooped over his cane and raising a glass of bubbly. Lawrence Wilcox, chairman of Harvard's biology department, had made the trek up from Boston and was standing with Olson Bulger, the precocious MIT mathematician who already had a calculus theorem named after him before he notched 30. Wilcox hadn't spoken to Bledsoe since he turned down Wilcox's generous invitation to join the Harvard faculty. Wilcox was a giant in the field of evolutionary biology and admired around the world for his numerous publications and prolific laboratory. He chaired the most important meetings and sat on the boards of the most respected scientific institutions. No one had ever said no to an offer from Lawrence Wilcox, except for Wilson Bledsoe, who simply wrote, "Thanks for your offer, but Kay and I are happy tucked away in these quiet mountains. I'm afraid I'm captive to the indescribable peace just outside my back door." "Can you believe Garrett flew in all the way from Stanford?" Bledsoe said. You'd figured he'd have a lot more important things to do than attend a damn party on the other side of the country. Garrett Templeton was the acclaimed chemist from Stanford, who, despite winning a Nobel of his own, was most famous for twice being offered the presidency of Yale and twice turning it down. Like Bledsoe, he had already found the perfect place, a small plot of land on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. "Well, I'm not surprised at all that Garrett showed," Kay said. "Maybe it'll finally hit home for you that the Devonshire is a big deal, sweetie. Everyone else seems to get that but you." "Just another reason to throw a party in that old mansion," Bledsoe huffed. "And I'm proud that you stayed as long as you did," Kay laughed. She knew how much he would rather be toiling away in his laboratory than making small talk at a cocktail party. "An hour was more than enough," Bledsoe said. "Oh, but there was something very funny." "Yeah? When I left, a student parking cars asked me to autograph one of my textbooks." "What did you write?" "I didn't. I'm not some rock star, Curly. I'm a scientist." "Wilson, whether you like it or not, you're a star and an inspiration to many people." "Maybe so," Bledsoe said, relenting. "But like my father said, the minute you start believing your own headlines is the minute you stop earning them." Kay chuckled. She'd heard that one many times. "Did you save your appetite?" "You betcha. I only had one shrimp all night." "Well, dinner will be ready when you get here." "See you soon, honey." "Love you." Kay made a loud kissing sound before the line went dead. Bledsoe pictured the grilled salmon, mashed potatoes, and cucumbers she had waiting for him. It was his favorite meal, had been since he was a kid. His mother always made it for him on special occasions, bringing home a good report card or winning a chess competition. He pushed the old red Mercedes. He had a lot to get done. Right after dinner, he planned on returning to the lab. His paper was finally ready to be submitted to science. He could have waited until the next morning, but he had worked on this paper for almost a year, the longest it had ever taken him to publish a manuscript. Even with hundreds of articles to his credit, he still enjoyed that shot of adrenaline when the paper finally left his desk. Bledsoe thought about the pleasantries he and President Mortimer had exchanged minutes earlier as Mortimer walked him to the door. "We're very proud of you, Wilson," he had said in his clipped New England accent. "You've done well by Dartmouth, and I'm personally grateful for that." "The college has done well by Kay and me," Bledsoe said, "and the best is yet to come, I hope." "You've got the Nobel and the Devonshire," Mortimer said. "It doesn't get better than that." "I'm not talking awards, Wally. I'm talking about research. I've still got some good years left in me." "You sound like you're on to something." "The scent is getting stronger." "Care to share with an old friend?" "It'll be ready later tonight," Bledsoe said. "I'm still hammering out the final details." Like most researchers on the trail of something important, he didn't care to share his work before he was ready. "You're looking a little tired, Wilson," Mortimer said. He had put his arm around Bledsoe's shoulders. "I know how tough the grind can be. Don't do what I did and miss out on many of life's opportunities while you're young. Take a semester off and travel the world with Kay." "I've been giving that some serious thought," Bledsoe said. "We've never been to Asia." "Enjoy yourselves. You have enough money. Go as long as you want. You'll always have a home here at Dartmouth." "Thanks, Wally. Kay and I have been grateful for the friendship we've shared with you and Serena all these years." "Where are you going now?" "Home," Bledsoe said. "Kay is holding dinner for me." "Send her my best," Mortimer said. Then Wallace Mortimer III, perfectly groomed in a stiff navy blazer and a forest green bow tie, did something he had never done in their 20-year friendship. He reached out and hugged Wilson Bledsoe firmly. The image of that hug lingered in Bledsoe's mind as he turned onto River Road and switched to high beams. The darkness in these mountain towns was overwhelming, especially on the small dirt roads. Drivers were left to find their way with the moon's reflection and a good dose of intuition. The car careened down River Road, the longest in the upper valley, stretching along the embankment of the Connecticut River and snaking its way into the wooded mountainside. This road was always a challenge. one that students often.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?